And it is Wednesday, a special Wednesday for Trekyards Mission Briefing. Yes, Stuart, the clock on your watch says Wednesday. Welcome back to Trekyards Mission Briefing, your weekly dose of Star Trek goodness. Look at any ship from the mass, multi-timeline, universe-verse. Have you seen Parallels? The one with Reich, the one with Worf. It's like 1,000 different... We're one of those universes. Talk about today, probably. Hey, Stuart, what are we doing? And why is it special today?
Today's special because it's the beginning of a month of specific ships for Mission Briefing. And today we're looking at, well, all month, we're going to be looking at Starfleet battleships. Now, what is Starfleet battles? I know you're thinking because you're
I was thinking that. Not only because, I know. They don't know. They should know. They don't know.
So Starfleet battles is a tabletop-based strategy game where you have ships, either little cardboard cutouts of the ships or little counter pieces or miniatures on a hex grid. And you basically have, SSDs, system status displays that have damage boxes, and you got to count up your energy and allocate energy at the beginning of each turn and fire and, strategize, and just, it's a space battle, but on a tabletop. And it's cool. It's fun. It fills in a lot of the gaps between TOS and TNG and just during the movies there. So it was really fun, and me and my brother played it all the time.
And when was this released?
60... Ooh, that's a good question. Late 60s, maybe?
Ooh, so kind of right after TOS went off the air then.
Or early 70s, yeah. Yeah, it kind of picked up right from there.
But what's the ship today, Stuart? And why is that our first pick?
Well, it's an amazing ship. It's an amazing ship. It's a big ship, and it's one that might as well start out big, right? Something grand for the grand first episode of this miniseries. Anyway, we're going to be looking at a Klingon ship today. And we're going to be looking at the Klingon B10, which is a battleship. So it's not a Dreadnought. It's a battleship. It's one step up.
So it's not a D7, it's a B10, so it's battle. So is it the 10th battleship they ever made?
No, I don't know. It's probably just a Federation designation for the ship, I would assume.
It's true.
I don't know.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, instead of 3 nacelles like a Dreadnought, this one has 4, of course. So it's a beast. And it is actually referred to as the Beast in the game. So first picture here, we got a 3/4 view of it. And as you can see, this is done by Adam Turner, so this is his interpretation of it. There are different interpretations of the design. But Adam does some fantastic work, so we're going to use his for this mission briefing. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of extra windows, especially in the boom section, which is very different than the D7 that we're used to seeing. And overall, just a massive ship.
Well, since this is one of yours, Stuart, do you want to ask me my first impression?
No, because you just did it for me. What's your first impression?
Yeah, it's D7, but on steroids. It's like huge. I mean, yeah, like I said, that boom section is like 7-8 decks big, which fixes that. It's a teeny thing issue, but it's kind of like, I don't even know how to scale this. It's obviously a fleet support ship. Like this is a thing you send in with an entire fleet of ships around it because it's capable of doing everything. Although it's such an upscale of the existing design, like it doesn't look. The shapes look very similar. And it's got a big ass deflector in the front. Looks Federation designy.
Yeah.
So maybe they're taking inspirations in their communication tech from the Federation, maybe?
It could be. It could be a new technology that they're experimenting with. They thought the Federations was cool. So
okay, so quick question off the bat then. Is this newer than the D7? Is this a brand new design iteration? Or is this just one of the fleet developed around the same time, just on a bigger scale?
This was a newer one. This was actually designed kind of in the late, I think after the 5-year mission, if I recall correctly. This was one, and it was never really completed. There was 4 on the drawing boards. Some of them got completed. There's an very interesting story and history with this ship, which we're covering in a full episode eventually. But some of them got off the drawing board and actually made it to construction. Some of them didn't. Some of them went out half finished. And
so did they just run out of nacelles? Because you need so many nacelles for this thing. If you run out of nacelles, it just can't do anything, can it?
Yeah, well, from what I can recall, they had it in the shipyard, and they would pull systems out that they spent months working on because newer systems came in, and they wanted to replace it with the newest systems, so they'd rip them out, and it was just a huge cost overruns and a whole bunch of non-Klingon-y things to think about, economics and
Yes.
you know.
Yes. So what was your first impression when you saw this ship thing? 'Cause it's quite a... If this was sort of your era of interesting yet sort of kitbashy ships, what was your first impression?
Yeah, I was blown away by it when I was younger because it was just it's so massively huge. I mean, if you look at the SSD on this when you're playing the game, there's just so many power boxes. There's so much going on, and it's like it's two ships in one because, as we'll talk about a little bit later, that boom section actually separates, and because it's got two nacelles of its own, it can actually tangle and go one-on-one with a Federation Constitution class, just on its own, without all the additional weapons and power that's supplied by the back end.
I assume you mean like the older classic Constitution is not necessarily the newer refit style.
Yeah, it'd be the TOS style, I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's late that era, then they probably would start the refit process and such.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and in Starfleet battles, there's also the Mars class Federation ship, which is a 4 nacelle battleship, which these things can go toe-to-toe with each other. So, yeah, that's what this is all about. But you were talking about size and not really...
It's confusing because the windows look so big in the front and yet so small the rest of the ship.
Yeah.
And yet there's so many, but the...
Again, that's just Adam Turner's interpretation.
Yeah,
I have seen other versions that are different. Even some of the shapes are different in other versions, which I'm sure we'll show those versions during our full episode on this ship. But Adam Turner does such a good job, I thought I'd just use his today. So you were talking about size earlier. So let's go to size chart now. And here we have the ships from the side. So you can see the D7 is down there near the bottom. So this thing's about almost twice the size of a length of a D7. And in between there's the C8 Dreadnought, which is a 3-nacelled Dreadnought variation, which looks really, really cool, actually. The thing that strikes me as odd, though, I mean, honestly, is the little piddly little nacelle struts and the D7 nacelles on this big B10 battleship.
Yeah, I mean, that proportion is ridiculous. Like, that little last... I mean, it looked fine from 3/4, sort of, but it couldn't they design new engines or just upscale? I mean, yeah, that was a bad... I mean, the thing is, they must think, we've got the engines, they're mass-produced, we can just throw 4 on, boom, warp field, boom, it's fine. But, yeah, it's obviously the same engine.
Yeah, I think upscaling would be at least aesthetically more pleasing. I don't think they care about the looks, though, for the Klingons.
This kind of reinforces how good the D7 design is, just aesthetically. Because it's it works. This new one, I mean, it's actually more different than I thought it was going to be, because that front bit, I mean, we won't talk about what it sort of looks like, but it's bigger, it's got a different head motif. It's like a skyscraper amount of stuff on the front. I mean, it's just let's put more layers and layers and layers and layers.
Well, if you look that center or the front boom section, that red strip along the spine is actually one of the warp cores, because it has its own independent warp core when it separates.
That's huge.
I think that one actually powers both halves while it's connected, but it goes with the boom when it leaves, because the back half is relatively useless when it separates. And here you see that the D7 is roughly the length of that entire boom section. So, that's pretty impressive in and of itself, in my opinion, anyway. So if you can imagine a Constitution class being the same size as the D7, going up against the B10,
pretty opposing, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's strangely rescaled because the engines are the same. The struts are maybe like a fifth bigger, maybe. The back bit, the shuttle bay, what could be a shuttle bay, is actually quite substantially bigger, and the rest of the hull is just sort of like pulled in different directions. It's kind of like, this is the problem with these old designs. It's not a design fresh. It is a how can we reuse elements to make a ship. It's lost that creativity of, well, let's build design. John Eaves designed a D5. It's a different design. You can see the design in it. You still see the design in this beyond. Let's take the pieces out. Let's resketch it. But then again, the Klingons use the same D7 and continuous design for decades. Why wouldn't they just reutilize parts? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're going to move on to the next size comparison, this is it from the top.
Huh.
So
I see several things in this.
Well, by all means, let us know. I will say right away that the internal volume on just the boom section is more than the D7, so that's pretty impressive in and of itself.
This is a good view for its differences. Again, they've sort of stretched and pulled some things out, but everything is a whole. I mean, you can never tell just from the side or from the top, the scale. You need to see both in proportion.
Yeah.
In context, because that is a huge jump, and you can see, especially other ships, the smaller than D7 ships flying with that Raptors and such. I mean, this is a true capital ship. I will say, I don't know if this is intentional, but if you flip the boom to the top, or reverse it to the one, it would look like a Klingon bird of prey. The way that wing is.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the angle, even with the guns a little bit. So. Yeah. Mill's inspiration.
Yeah, and it's interesting how the top view changes things. I do prefer it from the top, and the counters and stuff you got in the game were all from the top. So basically, the ship was designed from the top, and then once you turn it into a 3-dimensional thing like Adam Turner did, it kind of loses that beauty it has.
Well, why didn't they do I guess these things hadn't existed yet, but Constellation and Prometheus, doubling up the engines, just had more pylons that go like this, and then have the engines come off like that. That would have been easier and more refined way of having 4 engines without actually having to. I know you wouldn't have had the same boom warp matrix thing, but as a upping the nacelle count, it would have fitted in better probably. I think it maybe would have been too X-wing at that point.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it would be too Star Warsy and too. I think that would look worse, to be honest. It would step out of that Star Trek kind of feel too much for me anyway.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so there you have the sizes, and pretty impressive beast, this thing. So let's go to the next picture. Again, just a shot more from the front. There's a lot going on in this forward boom section as compared to the D7. Like you said, it's like a skyscraper. The window sizes here don't make sense, but then again, as stated, that's probably just an Adam Turner thing. I don't know why he would do that, but it could be too that the ones in the neck are just very small portals.
Yeah,
portals.
Yeah, and the ones all in the front are all command, crew, observation room, deck style. Designed for people to actually use them rather than just windows to the outside world.
Yeah. Let's go to the next picture. This is a shot of it from the back-ish.
That's a better view.
Yeah. Here you can see some of the phaser turrets on the side there. Those little ball things.
They use phase. But Stuart, Romans use disruptors mounted in the nacelles. They use phaseable turrets.
Ha.
Well, the Federation shouldn't even. Well, maybe they do at this point, given it's a little bit
in
later.
Starfleet battles, the Constitution class have ball turrets, just like the refit.
But why would the Klingons use them? They're stealing all of our technology, the deflector and the ball turrets.
They've got phasers and disruptors. Disruptors are their heavy weapons, like their photon torpedoes. Anyway, that's a thing.
It's so TD.
Yeah, well.
It's so TD. Yes.
Well, it's heavily armored. It's heavily armed, though. When we do the full episode, you'll hear how many armaments it actually does have, which is pretty impressive. And here, there's some tied-in elements that are like it's got like an impulse crystal at the top of the boom there, or some kind of thing that's reminiscent of an impulse crystal, anyway, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of surprised though how small those impulse engines are. I know the controversy, quote unquote, of the D7, and we talked about that in our episode. How many, where is, what they look like. It's changed every iteration, even the canon iterations of where the impulse engines are. This is obviously one of the many iterations, but for such a huge, I mean, you'll probably say the refit is such small engines, but that feels woefully underpowered for a ship of this size. And I would think that the Klingons would decide, hey, it's a huge hulking ship. Let's give it an edge beyond firepower. Let's just put engines, the entire line of that wing, because the wing is going to be hugely thick. Why not increase the power no end? Allow it to actually have those turning radiuses that would give it even more of an edge. I mean, these are meant to be warlike-ish people. I feel it feels like. I mean, what do you think? Is that underpowered? Do you think, or are they just like hyper high end?
I don't know if it'd be underpowered per se, but the placement bothers me. I think there should be some down on the wing elements to give it more maneuverability, because I can't see it being something that hulky and being very maneuverable with them centered so close together like that. But I guess it's not really designed for maneuverability, so take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Now you can see the shuttle bay at the top there, the shuttle bay door.
I've always approved of that being the location for it, I will say.
Yeah, I agree. And at the bottom there is kind of like an observation thing, much like on the top of the hangar bay on the Enterprise.
It's an odd choice, though. I'm assuming it's like fighter control bay because it's such a sticky, outy.
Well,
zone.
yeah, this thing does actually has what's called drop ships. Like it has drop positions. It can launch 4 fighters at a time in drop racks out of the shuttle bay, and then 4 more take their place right away. So it can launch 8 fighters very quickly, and those are for planetary assaults or things like that.
I'm assuming that this has forward-mounted disruptors in the engines, but I can see this as being even more functional if the boom splits, the ship then rotates, launches the fighters, and then has the other part of the ship be the covering. Then you've got a double whammy of effectiveness because you don't need you don't need windows for fighter control given you have sensors and sensors. But
until
hey,
sensors go down.
Yeah,
but usually a window in space, everything's so far away you're not going to see it anyway. So
yeah. Computer zoom. Nope, because the sensor's down. Damn it.
But it's okay. This is the JJ verse. Our window is our view screen. Zoom.
No, just they all have binoculars, like Kirk. So everyone's like this. To the left. 0.1%. Fire.
Right. Let's go to the next picture.
Okay.
And this is very plain, the shot from the bottom.
Best, Stuart.
I know.
It's not
It
even
looks
that...
It looks like a mean face on the back. It's got the teeth and looks like an evil robot from Futurama.
Yes.
With the glowing eyes.
I am Klingon B10. Please insert a girder. Thank you. I'm wondering... There's, it's not in all the ships, but I've always loved the Katinga onwards, the little circle bit in the middle. We always say is the warp core ejection, or at least engineering ejection. I mean, this... I feel like this is the zone he never thought people would see. This is the part of the model he didn't think... There's only a certain point modelers can... feel like they can add detail to a ship that has none, because at one point does it become their design versus your design? If you fill in all the gaps when you've just made it a fleshed out design, the limit of design is sometimes its benefit, because that's what it would look like if they were making it in reality.
Yeah. Here you can see some phaser turrets though, on the leading edge of the wings there.
Oh, okay.
And also on the underneath the forward boom section, there's 3.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I gotta admit, the boom looks really cool from this angle with those lower nacelles. I kind of like that. If it was separated, it wouldn't look as great. I've seen it separated. The little miniatures come in the separated option as well.
Ooh.
And it just doesn't... It's not impressive. It's just not. It just looks silly.
I'm wondering, though, where are the torpedo launchers, given that there's no front torpedo launcher that we could see, because that's now been taken up by a huge reflector, so is torpedoes no longer its primary, secondary yield?
I'm not sure it has torpedoes, if I recall correctly, because it uses heavy disruptors in place of torpedoes for a heavy weapon.
We saw what Shinzon could do, just continuous disruptor fire. There's no reason you need to have torpedoes if you can pummel it. If you look at that warp reactor, if you go to, I guess, the next picture again, you can see the scale of that warp reactor. That's pummeling out more juice than you should need. Keeping the lights on isn't that much. Keeping gravity on is not that much. It's probably either for bending warp, bending space to give it warp, but also to power all the weapons. Well, if you can fire 27 pulse beams, simultaneously at an enemy ship, well, it's going to go down either way. It doesn't matter if it's firing one torpedo as well, does it?
Yeah. Another thing this has too is drones. It's got unmanned drones that can be fired and used basically as missiles.
Oh.
So it's got drone racks, a plenty on this thing. I remember that. Cool. So go to the next picture, just another shot from it from the front, which we kind of already talked about.
I have a question though. I saw it on the previous one. If you look either side of that, so you got the forward bit, you got the top first line of windows, then above that to the left and right, I'm assuming that we can see on the right is a thing. It looks like a mega phaser on the Reliant.
I don't think that's a mega phaser. Again, I'm not sure. As we talk about when we do the full episode for this, they experimented with Hellbore devices and a few other different weapons things. That could be an optional weapons mount, perhaps. To mount, anything to. I don't know. It doesn't look like a mega phaser to me.
Well, how do you feel if that was a torpedo launcher? They just sort of come up into it and then fire.
That'd be cool. It could be one of the drone racks, to be honest, where the drones pop up and fire out of as well.
I mean, if the ship's that big, it's a huge thing. I mean, it's three decks big. That's pretty meaty. So what do you think about having a deflector right in the front and losing the famous torpedo launcher? Because I mean, you do 4 torpedo launchers in the scale of this ship. Make it a quad firing thing.
Nah, I think it doesn't suit this ship to have that deflector there, to be honest. Although we know the original D7s, that was a deflector, not a photon torpedo launcher. But that later changed. So I kind of like, in a way, that the fact that this is a deflector to remind everybody that this was a deflector, guys. And this is clearly now a deflector.
Remember it. Yeah.
But yeah, I would really need to put on 1 or 2 like torpedo tubes or something underneath it. But like I said, in Starfleet battles, the Federation's heavy weapon is a photon torpedo. The Klingons' heavy weapons are disruptors. Ooh. So a little bit different.
Well, did they ever fire torpedoes until the movies? The Klingons? I don't think they did. TOS.
I don't think so. It was all just disruptor blasts and stuff.
That was enough. I mean,
and it could be that the firing torpedoes in the movies is a result of the Romulan treaty, where they got plasma weaponry that never really worked properly, so they converted it and made it into torpedoes, because their torpedoes look distinctly different from the Federation's, so it could be different technology.
Well, we know they fired torpedoes in Enterprise, so
wow, there's just Enterprise coming along and messing everything up yet again,
adding to the continuity. Stuart.
All right, so the next picture.
Well, hold on, do you think this deflector backs up my point about being a fleet control ship? Maybe. Yeah. That's it. So you need to have such a. I mean, that's a huge deflector. That's 5, 6, 7 decks tall.
Yeah. I would totally buy that, because we know that the Federation class has the sensor dish on the back, and everybody's like, "Why does it have a deflector on the back? Does it fly backwards?" No, it's a fleet control ship. It's meant to be.
I'm totally annoyed by that question.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. It's meant to be kind of in the midst of things, controlling all the action and reporting back to headquarters. So it's got that long-range sensor array that it can do that. So yeah, I can see this thing sitting back and kind of directing everything ahead of it, because it would be the core of the fleet, like the aircraft carrier at the back, supported by cruisers and destroyers and everything else. So you got to get through that stuff to get to this. So yes, I can totally see that. That's why it's got this more advanced, huge deflector on the front, which is not a deflector; it's a sensor.
Cool.
And the shot from the side, it's an interesting side shot, because it's still kind of on an angle if you look at the far nacelle.
Yeah, it's not actually orthographic.
Yeah. It kind of loses something at the back for me. It's like the front almost works, and then at the back it just kind of goes, oh, we got lazy.
Yep. The originality stops, because that back portion looks just, if you cut it off just before you get to that last nacelle, or the second last, it's just like, it's D7 just upscaled. Everything else from the front is all original.
And I encourage everybody to go on Google and type in Klingon B10 and look, because there are different versions by different people, and even movie era versions that bulk out that back part and make it look mean, make it look like a redesigned ship. It's still got the 4 nacelles, but it's got a distinct look. So
cool.
Next picture, this is a shot from the back again. Again, you still got that angry looking face, but again, not impressive from the back in my opinion. Just needs something.
That's the most D7-y look. You'd think it's a D7, but just 2 nacelles stuck on, 2 extra nacelles. Yeah.
It looks like a D7 that was just in a very cold pool, so the nacelles are a lot smaller. I had to say it. Anyway, next picture.
A cold gas giant. Yep. Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah, this is some of the art on the Starfleet battle stuff is fantastic. So this is a D7 and a B10 taking on, I think that's a Lyran or a Kzinti ship.
I like the panel lines on the boom and the rest of the ship. It makes it a lot more three-dimensional.
I agree. Next picture is a different iteration of it. This looks different than Adam's a little bit, even though it is... I think this is still Adam's work. Looks like he's made some changes to the struts there.
Well, I mean, the middle struts are actually now coming out and down, actually looking as if they're like the other engines, as opposed to just sticking out at a weird angle.
Yeah.
It looks better. I mean, it looks more like it sort of like goes on 4 skis now. It's kind of like, it looks more robust.
And it's taking on a Federation class Dreadnought there, so that's cool.
Mm.
And the next picture is definitely Adam Turner again. This one, he's taking on one of the Federation Mars class battleships.
That's cool.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of cool box art for Starfleet battles, and they have the captain's logs, which are different, basically add-ons. They'd be considered DLCs if it was a video game. You got one once a month that had a different story and scenarios in it and stuff. Nice. So the artwork for Starfleet battles is fantastic. If you ever get a chance to look at Starfleet battles art, do it, because there's some great stuff. You see some really cool stuff.
And it should, because the captain told you to.
That's right.
But I will say on this ship, though, just the nacelles, the middle two, obviously, they are the elephant in the room. They're so just stuck on at an angle, it doesn't flatter it, doesn't, if they'd come out, there's no line of sight with those grills either side of the wing. I mean, just have them come out like that to follow the aesthetical design of the back engines, and boom, you've got something that actually at least has consistency, and would look okay. But pulling that out as well would just look awful. Or have them move up or do something.
I think if I did a redesign of it, I'd put the other set of nacelles on the top and slide them back into the back body a bit and have them point out this way a little bit. So it would look kind of X-wingy a bit from the front or the back. But I think when it separates, it would still have that kind of an imposing presence. That's just my opinion. Like I said, we should redesign some of these ships and Trekyards them.
And we've said that in multiple episodes, and multiple people then said, please do. So I guess there is a demand for rethinking some old, theoretically classics. But hopefully this is the first time for a lot of you guys to, when I say the first time I've seen it, but first time a lot of you have seen this Klingon design.
What are your final thoughts on the Klingon B10?
Mixed bag. Like I said before, it's an interesting combination of let's just take the elements and tweak them slightly versus let's actually do something different. They needed to change the back section more, although obviously the top view you can see it is different. I think this would work better as a Katinga version with more detail, because then they could add subtle things rather than just be flat and nothing, because it just feels like this weird mishmash. It doesn't seem like it'd be their first choice. I feel like it's an old designer has said, right, we need to build this huge ship. Let's see what we've got on stock and build the biggest ship we can with what we've got, as opposed to, right, we're going to put some money into that, like the Vorchar. Let's redesign, let's build something new and interesting that'll be the next leap of technology rather than just a small step. I think that's what it comes across as, just let's vaguely iterate. It's the iPhone 8 Plus to iPhone 8. It's not a communicator from TOS, it's a jump, I don't know.
I see what you're saying.
What do you think?
Pretty much the same. It did need a little bit of work and some fine-tuning to really make it something unique in its own being. But it's got such an interesting, rich history and design story in the game.
What a tease.
Yes, there's a full episode on this coming out from us soon. I've already started scripting it. And I'm learning a lot about the B10 that I did know at one point and forgot. Anyway.
He likes the Starfleet battles.
Yeah. And also, like I said, different people have done different iterations of this ship, and some of them look fantastic. This one holds very much true to the counters and the counterpieces that we see in the game, so Adam Turner stayed very true to that. But other people have kind of stepped outside the box a little and made a little bit more their own, and it really works for this ship. There's a few versions of it that are fantastic, which we'll include pictures of those other versions in the full episode when we're talking about the ship, I think.
Awesome.
So there you have it, guys. I hope you liked this episode, because there's more Starfleet battles to come. We're only doing 4 ships this month. We're going to do one from a different race every week, and just kind of give you some variation. Next time we do Starfleet battleships, we'll step more outside the box and do races you don't know about, like the Kzinti and the Lyrans and the Hydrons and the Andromedans might be included in this lineup. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I don't know. He's already planned it. I'm being thrown this stuff and say what you think, which is what I do to you all the time. So.
Exactly. So I hope you liked it. If you did, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything, and help us out by sharing the video around.
Or directly help us out if you can with one or two amazing ways. Either a one-time donation at trekyards.com. Go and say thank you, little tip, little whatever you want. A bit of a gratitude for just new Trek. I mean, we sort of put it all into one big place, and you just look at it every single week. Or a regular donation at Trekyards on Patreon, which is a monthly donation service that you can offer a little bit each and every month that goes towards just the Trekyards pot, the things that we use just to keep the lights on, get new guests, and just keeping the show coming to you every single week, several times a week, because that's what we do here.
Exactly. So, anyway, guys, put your comments down below. What do you think about the B10? Google search it. What do you think of the B10, the different variations of it?
Have we teased you?
Yes, have we sufficiently piqued your interest? I think we have.
Mm.
So until next time, guys, and another Starfleet battleship on the next mission briefing, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockles.
Bye, guys.